Tū matatea, tū ramatea, te tuapapa o te matatu Aotearoa. Ki runga, ki raro, ki uta, ki tai. Koia ko te manaakitanga, te whanaungatanga, te pono, me te whakamana I te ako. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. E titi, e te tā, e nā iwi katoa, tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai ki tēnei piringa rauhuia, ki tēnei hui nā kōrero, whakatau mai rā ki tēnei tere nā rauhuia, leading for innovation. Ko Roseanne London tōku ingoa, ko Aotearoa o nā tohu mātua mō te matatu Aotearoa. My name is Roseanne London, and I am one of the senior advisors at the Teaching Council. Our final symposium brings us to the heart of today's theme, leading for impact, sustaining innovation over time. Innovation isn't just about generating new ideas, it's about embedding change that lasts. This session explores how leaders can move beyond the initial spark to ensure innovation becomes part of the fabric of teaching practice. Today's presenters will guide us through evaluating impact to understand what is working and why, aligning innovation with strategic goals so efforts remain purposeful, and sustaining momentum over time, even in a constantly evolving landscape. You'll leave with tools and strategies to lead with clarity and confidence, empowering your teams to maintain energy and commitment for meaningful, long-term improvement. Nau mai kia piri, nau mai kia tata, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. It is my pleasure to introduce the presenters from NZCER, Dr. Mohamed Lysandra, Keita and Melissa Denzer. Together, they bring deep expertise in educational research and leadership. Mohamed is a senior researcher with a strong focus on school environments and the practices that shape student learning trajectories. Keita and Melissa are part of NZCER's kaupapa Māori Research Unit, contributing to rich insights to culturally responsive practice, collective leadership and equity in education. Their presentation, Cultivating Leadership, Insights from NZCER for Developing the Workforce of the Future, invites us to reflect on the impact of the Educational Leadership Capability Framework 7 years on. They'll share research on two key capabilities, ensuring culturally responsive practice, grounded in te reti o Waitangi, and building collective leadership. And they'll conclude with questions to guide further thinking and action. Please join me in welcoming Mohamed and Melissa.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui kia koe Roseanne for bringing us together. Thank you to the Teaching Council for making sure that events like this continue to go from strength to strength. Shout out to all the schools, all the teachers and principals out there. Ko Mohamed Lysandra toko inua, he tangata te riti ahau, he kairangaho matua, I te rangaho mātauranga o Aotearoa in NZCER, and this is my colleague, Melissa.
Kia ora koutou, he uri ahau ngō Ngāti Maniapoto no te rarawa hoki, I te taha o tōku māma, he kai tohu mātauranga he, me he kairangahau Māori ki NZCER ahau. Kia ora.
Kia ora. So what we're going to do today is we're gonna tag team this presentation. I'm gonna start for the first 10 minutes and talk about leadership for sustained impact. What does the research tell us about creating leadership that brings about that impact that lasts over time? And then I'm gonna pass it on to Melissa, who's gonna talk about Te Kura Tūtahi, a research project that showcases what we know about in the literature and showcases it in context and in particular in kaupapa Māori context. And then we're going to finish with the breakout rooms and the discussion points as Roseanne pointed out. I want to start with just providing key readings, sources, and literature just for the sake of the recordings, really. For those of you who are interested in some of the ideas that we're going to put forward today, those are some of the key readings that we've used to inform our thinking, where we drew some key insights that we thought would be really relevant for the leadership capabilities, the two in particular, as well as the theme of the symposium being leadership for sustained impact. The first two sources is our NZCER's national surveys of primary and secondary schools, as well as our TSB. We've been collecting data on teaching, learning, and leadership for more than 15 to 20 years now, with both quantitative and qualitative data. And we've kind of learned quite a lot from what the sector have told us about what makes leadership effective and how do leaders go on about creating that impact that lasts forever. And then a few other readings for those of you who are interested as well in this field. But I want to start with the other way around. Instead of talking about sustainable leadership, I want to give examples and things we've heard from schools and from the literature about what is unsustainable leadership. And I'm just going to provide some examples that some of you might relate to, you might have heard about, or you might have read about what we think of as unsustainable leadership, or the kind of leadership that could create that blip, that temporary increase in positive change, but then the change often returns back to baseline. Some of you might have worked in a school like this or heard of a school like this, one that employs a highly charismatic and very action-oriented leader, a senior leader or a principal, whose vision and effort are phased out as soon as they step out of their role. That's the kind of principal or senior leader who persuades people towards change. They commit to change and they make all sort of changes as part of their term. But as soon as their term finishes and they step down, someone else steps up, and then all of the efforts have gone to waste. Someone else comes in with a completely new vision and a completely new direction. Or you might have been in another kind of school that develops a completely new vision or a strategy every 3 to 5 years. The old strategy is gone and out the door. The new strategy doesn't build on the successes or the previous vision, doesn't extend on it in a lot of ways. And it's a completely new kind of paradigm shift for a lot of people. Or, this is a common one, you might have dealt with cynical staff yourself, or you've been in a school with cynical staff who push back on a lot of changes, a lot of educational change more broadly, or they withdraw from all sort of changes as a response to the ongoing educational reforms. They've seen it. They've lived through years and years and years of change. They started to ask themselves questions like, what's the point? When that person steps off or moves away, we're back to the old ways. You might have seen examples of this. Last but not least, you might have seen examples of schools that invest in substantial amounts of funding to address inequities, things that they've identified as challenges facing their schools and their communities. But the funding and the resourcing and the action plans don't seem to bring about the change that is desired. Ongoing change, successive levels of funding and resourcing goes on, but nothing changes, and as a result, staff are now burnt out. Those are common stories that we've read about. A lot of people told us through our surveys that these things are things that they've often experienced. What we want to do today through our research and some of the key insights that I'm going to share soon is try and provide some insights about how might we turn some of these things around. I want to share with you some of the key ideas for leadership that we think matters, inspires, and lasts beyond a term, beyond one-off improvement initiative. And those are things that we've learned about as a result of doing our research over the last 15 to 20 years about the kind of principalship and leadership more broadly that matters. The first thing that we often hear about when it comes to effective principals who aim for long-term impact is this idea that they had to move away from thinking about leading for legacy and more towards leading for succession. A lot of leaders have spoken to us about how leading for legacy is often about proving a point. Leaders who want to make a change, sometimes for the sake of change itself, and other times just to prove a point. They believe that their leadership is about setting a legacy. They want to be attributed with a legacy, something that have happened in the school environment because of them. Whereas what we'd like people to think more of is about how effective leadership and sustainable leadership is actually about succession planning. A lot of leaders who really cared about sustainable impacts told us in the past that leadership is about learning from your predecessors, setting a vision based on that, and ensuring that your successors learn from your efforts. They get a good feel about what was done before, what's going to happen now, and how that's going to lead to the next steps. And so leaders all of a sudden see themselves as those who create the conditions for lasting effects. One thing that I think is very important to note here is that leadership is not just about you. The vision, the school annual goals, the charter is not something that leaders own. It's something that leadership have responsibility for. They move the school environment towards achieving these goals and they pass it on for the next leadership team to follow. It follows from that that leadership is actually an intergenerational and a collective process. It's a kind of leadership that acknowledges and makes use of knowledge, whether that's institutional, historical, local, and contextual. It passes through people, places, and spaces. A lot of people have told us that they've often found it amazing how a lot of the solutions to the problems or the challenges in school are identified out of school by whānau, by community leaders, and others. In other words, leadership is something that goes beyond the physical walls of a school. And it's important to recognize that leadership, sustainable leadership, is collective, not bound by physical environments, and assumes that expertise and leadership come from within and outside of the school. It is one that uses the cultural and historical foundation as anchor and as a piece of strength or a pillar that allows people to move from strength to strength. One thing that often principals who care about sustainability of their impact talk about is how they spend a lot of time promoting a shared sense of why and how. Arguably, your school's vision, goals, ideas, and priorities are only as good as your ability to articulate these to your staff, including the how, the why, the intentions that sit behind them, and what are the concrete or practical actions needed for individuals and the collective school body to get there. One of the things that I often tell schools to think of once they draft their priorities, their vision, their charter, is to ask themselves, do they think that their people, their staff, their community see themselves in the vision or in the plans? Is there a great deal of buy-in? Do they think that this is something good for kind of the greater good of the school environment and not just a one-off leadership term? One thing you might have noticed, therefore, is that when we talk about sustainability here, we don't just talk about sustainability of outcomes. A big part of this is actually sustaining the people and the processes that are involved in bringing about that change. When we think of sustainable leadership, we think of sustaining the people who come along the journey with us. What about their workloads? What about the well-being? What about the tools, the capabilities, the skills and knowledge that they require to help the school achieve its long-term goals? What about the processes? Do they make sense? Do they have a great sense of validity to them? Do they work as intended and as operated? Can they stand the test of time? When a new team takes over or new staff come on board, can they still make sense of the processes, policies, and strategies and translate these into their work? One of the things that we also talk about when it comes to sustainable leadership is what we call the 3D leadership: distributed leadership, distinctive, and defined. What that means is that sustainable leadership is one that is distributed across the board and is collectively shared. It is distributed vertically as well as horizontally. Put simply, just because you don't have a leadership role does not mean you can't have leadership responsibilities. In fact, the school as a whole should be seen as a leadership team where everyone can take on board a leadership task or responsibility. They've got distinctive roles and these are defined for them, including the steps required and where are they heading in terms of their individual and collective efforts. It is important to recognize that even our ākonga are leaders in their own right, as well as whānau. They are also leading from within the school environments, actually, and not just from outside. Sustainable leadership is also scaffolded and scaffolding. It provides the backbone to change. Sustainable leadership is all about recognizing the people, the resources, the strategies, the processes needed for us to move from where we are today to where we want to get to later on. One of the things that a lot of leaders who care about sustainable impact do is they keep asking themselves individually and in teams, how do we know that we are on track? What sort of data, insights, conversations that we can draw on that would tell us that we are heading, or at least in terms of the direction, we're going where we'd like to go. It is actually sometimes quite a hard thing to do, particularly as schools sometimes need to navigate uncertainties, complex times, and simply choppy seas. And so sometimes it's not just about the destination, but the process that allows you to get there. So it's very important to think along the way and to have check-in points about, are we on the right track? What resources we need, what change in our plans we need to undertake. Do we need to bring external expertise? Do we need to draw on our community for resources, solutions, other types of way of thinking, just to kind of keep that impact over time? It's all about building on the successes, the histories, the legacies, and the stories of success that this environment, this schooling environment, have kind of witnessed in the past. Last but not least, one interesting thing that keeps coming up in the literature is that sustainable leadership, or leaders who care about sustainable impact, I should say, are ones who use diversity, social justice, and equity as anchor and fuel to leadership. They understand that in order for them to bring about that change that everyone agrees on in terms of direction and where they're heading, they need to understand what sort of inequities, challenges this school is facing, what sort of diverse opinions and ideas out there about how to go on about solving some of these inequities, and in what ways we can distribute our resources to maximize the impact for everyone involved. Otherwise, you run the risk of spending your time, money, resources on something that only 10% of your school cares about. And by default, what that means is when you've got a new senior leadership team involved, they're going to care about another 10%, and another team's going to care about another 10%, and another 10%, which makes seeing the impact even longer at a school-wide level. I'm going to pause here. Those are some key ideas that I just wanted to share up front from the literature about sustainable leadership that I think are important for schools to reflect on and think about moving forward. I'm now going to pass it on to Melissa, who's going to showcase some of that work in context in situ and talk about some of the work that they've done when it comes to Māori leadership in particular. And I'm going to pass it on to you, Melissa.
Kia mau. Kia ora. So today I'm just going to talk through a project that we recently published with Te Wāhanga, which is our kaupapa Māori research arm at NZCER. And the findings really reinforce the key ideas that Mo spoke to, and also strongly align with the educational framework, the capabilities that Roseanne mentioned at the beginning of our kōrero. Now, this rangahau focuses on how mana motuhake is lived and led in Māori education settings. So I'm going to share findings from Te Kura Tūtahi, and these draw on kōrero from Pou Māori across 4 kura. Te Kura Māori o Porirua, Tipene, Te Kura Māori o ngā Tapuai, and Kia Araha campus. Our kaupapa, our research was grounded in kaupapa Māori theory and methodology, research by Māori, with Māori, and for the benefit of Māori. We drew really heavily on the principles and scholarship of Linda Tuhiwai-Smith, and her mahi shaped not only what we did, but how we did it, how we engaged with participants, how we gathered and analysed their kōrero, and how we're now disseminating and sharing the findings back to communities. As a team, we also had a wānanga to establish the mātāpono, the principles that would guide our rangahau in practice. And the mātāpono that we landed on were whakapono, ringa raupa, humarie, whakawhiti kōrero, and taonga tuku iho. Before we began our field work, we grounded ourselves in the existing literature and what that says about Māori leadership. And that research consistently highlights that Māori leadership is holistic. It's collective, relational, and anchored in shared kaupapa rather than hierarchy or status. With that understanding, we asked each of the four kura to identify their own po Māori. Those are key people who carry, protect, and uphold the values of their kura. What stood out for us was that these po Māori came from every part of kura life. They were ākonga, whānau, kaiako, tūmoaki, and even graduates. And this really reminds us that leadership from a Māori perspective isn't about position, it's about service, responsibility, and lifting others. It's the everyday actions and relationships that sustain the kaupapa of the kura. And while the literature tells us that what Māori leadership is in principle, the kōrero, the stories of these po Māori, showed us what it looks like in practice, how leadership is lived, grown, and sustained within the four kura that we visited. Our overarching research question came from the findings and gaps identified in an earlier study we did, Wahine Māori in Leadership. And that study revealed contrasts between kaiako Māori experiences in English medium settings and those in kaupapa Māori settings. The findings showed that wahine Māori in English medium schools often carried heavier individual loads, what we refer to as cultural taxation, while kaupapa Māori settings shared more equitably, and this signalled the need for this rangahau. Our overarching research question was, how is mana motuhake realised in kaupapa Māori education settings? And these are our four sub-research questions, which I'll address now. So our first sub-research question was, what is mana motuhake? Understanding what it is. Across all four kura in our rangahau, mana motuhake begins with tuakeritanga, knowing who you are and being proud to live it every day. These kura created spaces where being Māori is normalised, celebrated, and strengthened. It wasn't just about language or culture, it's about a deep sense of belonging and pride that shapes how people move through the world. Identity as a superpower, whakapapa, and collective responsibility are all core markers of culturally responsive practice. They are lived and breathed in these kura. Secondly, mana motuhake is carried collectively as a whānau, hapu, iwi. It's never carried alone. Kura showed how leadership, care, and accountability are shared across the whole community. Everyone contributes. Whānau, kaiako, ākonga. And that shared effort strengthens the whole system. It's a model of leadership based on giving back, reciprocity, and collective success. A clear expression of whanaungatanga and kotahitanga in action. And thirdly, mana motuhake is not something our po Māori defined, it's actually something that they lived. So mana motuhake is about knowing who you are, standing with your people, living and leading unapologetically as Māori. Now, every kura we visited had their own mana motuhake, just like the quote above that speaks to the Ngā Tapawai way. Interestingly, all of the case study kura who we worked with wanted us to publish their names and also the names of the participants, mainly because they were really proud of who they are and what they do, and also to share widely the mahi and the foundations by which they live and embody mana motuhakitanga. Now, a second sub-research question was actually how is mana motuhake realised in these kaupapa Māori education settings? Mana motuhake is realised when relationships drive learning, when kura operate like whānau, not institutions, like a tuakana teina approach. Kura practice this ia rā every day, just as the quotes that our ākonga speak to. These ākonga are taking responsibility and leading by example. And leadership isn't confined to formal titles, it's distributed across the kura, with each person contributing in ways that reflect collective strength. We also found that mana motuhake is realised in these kura through growing their own leaders. For example, at Ngā Tapawai, most kaiako are ex-students. They already know how the kura works, the values, the knowledge essential to the kaupapa. And this means that tikanga are upheld without needing to be taught again. And this finding illustrates the sustained collective leadership structures within these kura and how professional communities are built and sustained there. Our next part I focused on the conditions that grow Māori leadership. One of the conditions that nurtured Māori leadership, and a really strong theme across all four kura, were that whānau were active partners in the life of the kura and shaped its direction. It was clear these kura aren't the type where you drop your kids off at 8:30 and pick them up again at 3. Whānau were engaged, attending hui, wānanga, as well as beyond the classroom, being kaiawhina, sports coaches, parent helpers, and kaitiaki. The quote from Tuatea, who's a whānau from Ngā Tapawai, really sums us up, that strength comes from whānau, where everyone's involved, everyone's engaged, everyone's supporting one another. Another condition that grows leaders across these kura is the strength of identity and legacy, giving young people cultural tools, role models, and spaces where being Māori is normal, powerful, and transformative. Aria's kōrero shows how leadership grows when ākonga are equipped with Māori tools and ways of thinking. And even when facing challenges, these tools give them confidence, grounding, and a sense of capability wherever they go. Te Kani's experience shows the impact of Māori role models. Seeing other Māori boys in leadership inspired him to aim higher, highlighting how leadership is grown by visibility, aspiration, and by example. Together, these kōrero show that leaders grow in environments where identity is strengthened, cultural tools are provided, and role models pave the way, creating a cycle of legacy, pride, and transformation. And this notion of legacy is also central to succession planning. When asked about the challenges and opportunities for realising mana motuhake, two really strong themes emerged. A key challenge faced by these kura is the dominance of colonised measures of success. As Hayley Milne pointed out, we still operate in a system that values scales and standardisation. The bigger your school is, the better you are. And this narrow framing doesn't reflect the realities or the aspirations of our Māori communities, and it actively limits Māori definitions of success. Nathan Jury also reminded us that transformative change in justice, health, and education requires people who bring a different lens, a Māori lens. But the system often isn't designed to recognise or empower that kind of leadership, which becomes another barrier to mana motuhake. However, at the same time, the kōrero we had with these kura made it clear that the opportunities are already here and they're powerful. Nathan spoke about the growing evidence that Māori are at best at delivering for Māori. The opportunity lies in simply being trusted with the resources and decision-making power to do what works. Lauren highlighted that Māori success speaks for itself when she says we live and breathe it. In other words, mana motuhake is already operating where Māori are leading in their own spaces. And as Te Ureroa Flavel puts it, where Māori are given opportunities, they take them with both hands. Time and again, especially in moments of crisis, Māori step up and lead. The opportunity is to recognise this, invest in it, and remove barriers that hold it back. The wero is the persistence of colonised definitions of system constraints, and the ahanga lies in Māori capabilities, proven success, and the strength of our own leadership when we're given space to lead. So this project really reinforces that identity, whakapapa, and collective strength are everyday practices in these kura. Our findings illustrate how mana motuhake, whānau-centred practice, and intergenerational leadership embody the educational capability frameworks. And our research shows that Māori leadership grows strongest in Māori-led spaces, grounded in whānau, values, and tikanga. Our kura don't just educate, they grow leaders. We heard repeatedly, when Māori lead, our people thrive. Moving forward, our task is to protect and strengthen these pathways, making sure our tamariki continue to have the tools, Māori teachers, and Māori role models. We must keep growing our own, keep uplifting whānau, and keep championing Māori-led education that transforms lives. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Melissa. I just want to end by thanking you all for being here today and posing a simple question. What does sustainable leadership look like in your school, in your team, and with your school community? And if we today manage to get you to think of one different thing that you can take back to your kura, to your school, a practice, a strategy, a policy, a process, an idea to test out, then I think we would have done a good job today at just influencing the way that you think about leadership for sustained impact. Ngā mihi nui, kia koutou.
Thank you, Mohamed and Melissa, for sharing such valuable insights with us today. Your findings and reflections have given us so much to consider as we look to strengthen and sustain leadership impact across Aotearoa. The questions and implications you've posed will help guide our thinking and future actions. We really appreciate the depth of expertise and commitment that you bring to advancing educational leadership. Ngā mihi nui for contributing to this important conversation. Now, I just want to give everyone a moment to write down your notes on Mohamed and Melissa's presentation. So starting with Mohamed's prompt, what does sustainable leadership look like in your setting? And what resonated with you from Mohamed and Melissa's presentation? What challenged you in Mohamed and Melissa's presentation? And did you note any leadership strategies or concepts that you would like to find out more about, and why? Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Lysandra Stewart. Lysandra is an experienced leader in Aotearoa's primary education sector with over 30 years of service in both state schooling and non-profit organisations. She is currently principal at Glenbrook School and lead principal for the Waiuku Kahui Ako, fostering collaboration and shared expertise across schools. Lysandra also serves as president of the Franklin Principals Association and contributes nationally through roles with NZEAL, APPA, and Te Awa Tumuaki o Aotearoa. She is a highly regarded speaker, facilitator, and mentor. Lysandra is passionate about optimistic leadership, innovation, and the integration of AI in education. Her leadership philosophy is grounded in strategic, culturally responsive, and courageous decision making, with a strong commitment to values such as ako, manaakitanga, and whanaungatanga. And just a couple of weeks ago, Lysandra was awarded the Australia-New Zealand National Excellence in Teaching Award for Leadership. Congratulations, Lysandra. Today, Lysandra will lead us into Leading for Impact, Sustaining Innovation over Time, exploring how leaders can evaluate impact, align innovation with strategic goals, and maintain momentum for lasting change. Please join me in welcoming Lysandra Stewart.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi kia koutou, nau mai haere mai, and it is such a pleasure to be here. Kia ora Mohamed and Melissa for your whakaaro and kaupapa within your kōrero. I was absolutely, couldn't stop listening, and then I was thinking, I'll pay attention to what you've got to talk about as well. I also want to acknowledge the Teaching Council, in particular, Kim and Roseanne, for giving me this opportunity to kōrero with you this afternoon. And I also want to recognise everyone that's taken time out on a Tuesday to join us with your expertise and your own kaupapa that's going on. It's such an extremely busy time in our sector. So kia ora, ngā mihi to you all. So ko Lysandra tōku ingoa. I'm the tūmaki here at Glenbrook Kura. I come from the mighty far north there in Wharawhiwhi is where our whānau comes from, coming from Ngāpui, Rauhuia, ko Ngāti Kahu Oku Iwi. So although I live all the way down here, that's where my whānau comes from. And first of all, when we talk about leadership, leadership is about all of us, right? We're all leaders, whether it's from our babies and the 5-year-olds, or all of us sitting in the swivel chair into our governor. So leadership is so wide. And I want us to remember that, because here at Glenbrook, it's very much about our community, it's about our akonga, it's about our kaiako. And when we talk about our values, and I'll talk about our school values a lot, that's what anchors us as leaders. And this kōrero is really about how to make leadership last, probably because I'm at that stage in career of my life as well, rather than leadership that reacts. And I think right now, at the time that we've got in the sector with everything else going on, it's really important to just take a moment to slow down and look at what is important in our kura, what is important for us as leaders, and what's important for us in our sector. So this whakatauki, e hara taku toi te toa takitahi, engari he toa takitini. Our strength is not that of an individual, but of the collective. And we live by that, we breathe by that. Well, there's no I in team, you guys know this. It is what we do together, and it's shifting from that complete overload of everything that's coming in from everyone to things that are going to be meaningful, sustainable for you. And you can only do that with a team. Hopefully that goes forward. There we go. So innovation that endures, right? So when I talk about ko wai tātou, ko wai koe, we're talking about who are you? I think I've dropped one there. Let me just drop back. Here we go. Aroha mai. Ko wai tātou, who are we? Ko wai koe, who are you? And as leaders, do we understand what that is for us? Do you know what you mean by that? And does everyone else know what they mean? And I ask that because quite often, and I'm the worst, we go by presumption that everyone understands what we're going. So innovation is not just about new ideas, it's embedding that change over last. And in this time of reform and of fatigue that's starting to hit us, depending on what time of year that you feel that you're in with all changes, we've got new frameworks, new expectations, new curriculum, new refresh, depending on which curriculum you're looking at. And you're kind of looking at that right now and going, I can't even think about sustainability right now. What I need to understand is trying to get through the day. But as leaders, we can't do that. And what we've got to do is come back from that overload and look at what's purposeful for us and what's enduring. And so when we come back to that, our values as a kura, our values as leader has to be centre. They have to be the po, and this is what Mohamed and Melissa were adhering to with our kura kaupapa of where we're going. All of us have values in our school. And sometimes it's really important that you come back to that and understand what that means. And for us, ako, everyone is a learner. I'm a learner every single day. I learn not only by the stuff that's coming in, but by the people that are wrapped around me. And so do our leaders. Leadership every day is growing because no matter what processes and systems you have in place, you have to grow that around the who that's in front of you. And that's quite an exciting, but it's about setting those expectations, whānau. What is it that we expect from each other? And what is it I need to do as a leader up front? And we do that through manaakitanga here at our kura because that care is a strategy. What does that look like? We talk about what that means with our akonga. We talk about what that means as our kaiako. But what does that mean as a strategy going forward? Whakawhanaungatanga's relationships within that, those expectations. It's not always about being friends with people. It's about those professional expectations, that potential that you see in your people and how you're going to grow it and how you're going to drive it. And within that is student agency. And with this change that we've got upon us, it's really important that we hold on to agency of our students and allow them that space to grow and thrive. And what does that look like? So expectations and understanding that starting point with your values in place before you go forward. And at our school, it's about prioritising. So for us, we choose one curriculum area. That is what we're prioritising. We're not worried about the noise that comes in because otherwise there'll be no innovation. All you've got is a whole lot of business and stuff going on. And so I want to talk about innovation versus change. And it's really easy to think that the latest thing is an innovative idea, right? But you've got to ask those three questions. What problem are you trying to solve? Whose voice is at the centre of it? And how do you know it matters? And any good educator will say to you, it's always about our kids. And I'm one of those people that'll sit in a room and go, I get it. And that sounds really awesome. How does this add value to our kids? How does this align to our strategy in our school and our values? And what is the outcome going to look like? Because otherwise we go off on all these tangents, and one of my favorite quotes from Lewis Carroll, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And that is what can happen in education, right? We get excited and we go off and we've got all these different things to do. But we need to pull that back. We need to take our time and we need to say to each other and our teams, what is it we're actually trying to do here? Otherwise, change, just responding to the pressure, that's all it is. And it does nothing. And what you've actually done is create a bit of chaos. And we don't need to do that. Everyone else is doing that for us, right? So we don't need to do that. And we want to look at that innovation, which responds to purpose. What is the purpose you are actually trying to achieve? Can you actually articulate that? I like to think I can, but sometimes I get, I start drowning in some of the paperwork and the admins and the emails, and I've got to come back. I've got to look at our tamariki and our kaupapa and go, actually, what is my purpose? What is it we're trying to achieve? And it's really important. But there's also, within the chaos, and I'm sure you've heard this before, there's opportunity. And at the moment, there's a whole lot of opportunity within the noise, because what we get to do as leaders is sit down and say and think and take a moment and go, actually, what is it here that we're actually not doing well, and why aren't we doing it well? And that's part of being innovative to your purpose. It's not just reacting to the pressure. And how do I trim some of that fat? So, if you're doing a stock take or you're reviewing your action plans, or you're even looking at those system and processes in your school, now's a good time to say, actually, these are things we can look at. Have they made a difference? Do they add to what we're trying to achieve, to what we have prioritized here as a school? And in our school, we do that regularly. Our leadership team, that is top of line. And everyone's got good ideas and everyone's got things they want to achieve and do. And everyone's got a trip they want to go on or a program they want to bring into the school. But what we've got to do within that is we prioritize. great, that's important, that sounds like a great idea. But remember, our priority is this. In the past at our school, it would have been a maths, English, a writing, a core curriculum. But what we've done is we've come back and we've looked at those skills that our tamariki need. Critical thinking and effective questioning. And what does that look like for us? What does that look like as we teach? What does that look like in a strategic plan? And then how do we resource that? And AI opens up that world. It brings a non-emotive voice into the discussion. It helps you trim that fat, ask those questions, the things that you sit there and become a stalemate in a conversation, bringing your AI in to do that, to not only be part of that conversation and record, but to also help you sift and clarify when the conversation within your team. And out of that, you get some more clarity and better purpose within that. So talking to your leadership team, asking those questions, what is it we're trying to actually solve here? Does anything need to be solved? Is there questions we haven't asked? Who has been heard? Or who are we hearing too much of? Those are really important things. At the centre, I'll argue this time and time again, how does this add value to the kids in front of us today? So I love this. I love thinking outside the box. I love challenging, but equally my job as a leader is to make sure at every single turn, how is it that I am keeping the things that we are trying to prioritize in our school the priority and not getting too much in the busyness. And so we do that through a couple of things. And I like the C word, these C words, I have to say. So clarity, capability, and consistency. And again, just like the team was talking about before, your leadership framework, right? So if you're grounding those ideas to your shared purpose and your values, again, keeping those values at the forefront, then that capability, how are you building your people? And when I say how you're building them, how are you building them to meet the purpose and the priorities that you have chosen as a team? Because it's really simple for people to go off, I want to do this, I want to do that. Sounds great, and it's important, but we have limited time, we have limited budgets, and part of that kaupapa of your school is making sure that's where you're going and continually going forward. One of the things I'm most proud of as a tūmaraki is look at one of our kaupapas, realising potential, is realising the potential in my people, in my kaiako. So how do I identify that? How do I communicate that with them? And what am I doing? And what are my workmates doing in order to get them there? So it's more than PLD, right? It's realising their potential and having that faith and trust in them to get there. And team, they're not always going to get there in a year. So within 1 or 2 years, where is it I want to see that teacher? Now, the downside to that is they absolutely smash and become amazing and go work in another kura, but that's okay, because what you've done is you've added to the profession. But in your own kura, what is it? And you're talking about that talent management. We always come back to our values because that gives us clarity and it gives us courage to have that conversation. When you're consistent, team, what you're doing is you're building trust. You're giving a comfortableness, but not too comfortable, because we know good ideas come from being uncomfortable. But what you're doing is you're building that platform and that foundation for your leadership team in which to work in, because they're not going to know everything. They're not, and the other thing I like to say is also they're not your PAs, right? They're not for you to come along with your latest idea as a tūmaraki or a governor or whichever role it is in the swivel chair and say, I've got this idea, that idea. Your leadership team also needs to have that reciprocity where they can come back and challenge you as well to keep you honest as a tūmaraki, so that you are keeping to the priorities and you are keeping to the direction that you guys have decided to go in. The other thing is consistency, is make sure that it's visible, it's repeatable. Is it aligned with the strat goals? Are you just bringing it up in a meeting? Do you talk about it with your whānau? Is it in a newsletter? Do you bring it up in your principals' assemblies? Do you talk about it with your kids? How are you creating and repeating your narrative so that everyone understands what you're talking to and where you're coming from? So just reinforcing that idea that leadership has to be about your vision. It needs to be repeatable habits that are growing the priorities going forward that you have chosen. It needs to be clear, just like Mohamed was saying, you've got to be able to articulate it. My measure, if my kids can't articulate it back to me when I'm having a kōrero with them, my senior counsellors, it doesn't matter who it is, then it's not clear. What does that look like? You know, I like to chuck it in a staff meeting from time to time. Team's awesome, they're used to it. They'll go, yep, realising potential, accelerate ako agency. Great. What does that mean in your classroom? What does that look like in everyday lessons? What does that look like when you're out at a PE lesson? So really making it real and putting it at the forefront and then celebrating what that looks like. In our newsletters with our whānau, we'll talk about that all the time, our priorities, what that looks like, so that they understand it and they're taken on that journey with you. Fails are the most important thing as leaders, right? So in our school, first attempts in learning, when we talk about our mana as learners and we talk about ako agency, we're talking about what happens when you make that mistake, what happens when you fall over, because your mana is what you do next. Your mana is what you do as a tamariki, as a akunga, as a kāko when we're not looking. And I love fails. Every day I challenge someone to fail. I fail every single day. And it's so exciting because that's where the magic happens, right? That's where the learning happens, but we can't be afraid of it. And sometimes I think we need to ask ourselves as leaders, have we set up a culture in our school where our kāko can have a fail, a professional fail? Because then have we articulated, have we gathered, have we shared what we do next? Those kind of reflections. For us, we do a win, learn, change. Always win, learn, change. Have a kōrero, put it in your narrative, put it as part of your reflection. What does that look like? Because you can't build resilience and trust as a team within your culture if you don't have room to fail. And I look at our tamariki and I look at what's happening in terms of their social skills because of 10 million reasons, and you all know this, without saying, hey, if they can't fail in our school, especially at primary level, when are they supposed to fail? So first attempts of learning, absolute a must. And when I work with our principals or our middle leaders, and I like to do this too, plan your fails. There's nothing wrong with planning a fail. I challenge most people, choose your one fail that you need to shift your school, to shift your culture, to shift the value added to your tamariki each year. Be in control of it. So whether it's a massive system structure, if it's something within a timetable, a way that you run your curriculum, you know, plan that fail. Don't be afraid of it. Invite in the critique. Take the journey, the bumps and the lumps and everything that you do with it as part of that kōrero and go through it. Every leader knows that what you are doing is you're running a risk assessment every single time, from a conversation to a meeting to an outcome. So really huge around fails and that resilience that you get there, because when it wins and when it goes well, and team, it might take 3-4 times till that happens, that is where the magic is, because that's what ako is, right? That's what learning is. Doesn't just happen in our classrooms, that's what happens in our kura. And if we gather that, your culture across your school and those capabilities you're growing as a leadership team with them, for them, and leading them becomes so much stronger. And celebrate it. We are so bad at celebrating stuff in New Zealand. We do it with our tamariki, awesome. But celebrate that journey with your kāko as well, and with your leaders, and recognise them for what they're doing. But also invite the fail in, laugh about it, work with them about it, and share what we do. I always share the mistakes I have, but then I share what I should have done next. So yeah, great leaders don't avoid fail, they plan their fails. They've got intention, reflection, and courage, and it takes courage. I don't underestimate that. But the win that you will get from it and the power that you get from it, that is the magic that happens within education. So plan your fails, plan for when they fall apart, let them fall apart. Too many times we probably are trying to save people, right? But we want to empower people. We do it with our tamariki. We have to do it with each other. We're not perfect in any shape or form. Okay, we are people. Let people be people. Let us have our fails. But then what do we do next? And I like to talk to our people in terms of, I'm not going to be there to pick you up. I'm going to be there as you pick yourself up every step of the way, being your champion. So challenge people to fails, bring that in, anticipate that resistance, because you got 5%. should always have 5%. 5% challenge you, 5% keep the temperature in your kura and your community real. If it's more than 5%, you probably should be having a lot more conversations. If it's less than 5%, probably thinking you haven't really got your the pulse and understanding of the pulse or the temperature of your kura. So I always look at the 5% as a measure of where we should be and where we should be going. And last of all, think about what that learning is going to look like. It's not perfection. When we plan stuff, we have an idea of an outcome, right? But that outcome is molded by the people that contribute to it and by the people of who it's for. So fail is a strength, embrace that strength, but look what that looks like. So for us, it's around curriculum redesign. How do we bring that digital learning into it within the AI? How are we creating tools with our teachers so that they can find more time, because we know time and people are the two most important things, so that they can spend as much time as possible honing their craft as teachers, no matter what curriculum area it's in, so that our kids can think critically and ask effective questions. So that's what we talk about when we're talking about fails. Again, requires courage, reflection, and it has to be intentional. And if you can get that right within the culture of your school, then you are on an absolute winner. So talking about those fails. When we talk about evaluation impact, and none of this will be new to you, I will often look at what was the improved outcomes. And I liked the message that Mohamed had in his around Hayley Milne. I'm big aroha out to my mate Hayley. It's not just about data, and I know we're going to watching the system go a little bit like this, but what is it we're trying to improve for our akunga, for our kids? And like I said, for us, effective questioning, critical thinking. So what does that evidence look like? And where's our trust as leaders and what our teachers are doing? But it's a we. It's not just a me and I. So looking at that evaluation impact and starting with that centre, very much about the who. What is it you're trying to do? When we talk about it, we've got to ask what that evidence is. What is the outcome that we're trying to shift? And it might be a small one. Sometimes we're so worried about annual plans and annual targets and what we've got to do by reporting in 6 and 12 months. Well, we've got stuff that does that and all the stuff coming, but the wider picture, the wider purpose of us as schools, and we've got to think about the bigger picture of schools, is what is it we want for our tamariki at the end? But are we also doing that for our kaiako? Are we thinking about them in terms of growing them as leaders? And we're all leaders of learning, where that's going to go. And whose voices are we listening to? Not just the people we like or the people we think we have to listen to, but who actually else are we listening to? And team, it's not always people in education. Some of the great stuff I hear when I'm involved with other providers is listening to people outside the sector, listening to some great leadership outside of education, because the skills are the same. The learning is the same. And then the big one is, how do we make that visible? Because it's not just an achievement. Impact evaluation is not just data achievement. It is looking at that child as a whole. And team, kura kaupapa gets it right. In mainstream, we need to think about what that looks like as well. Those capabilities, those skills that we want for our tamariki, we need to keep talking about them. In the old days, and I say old days because I'm old these days, we think about those graduate profiles that we used to have. What does that still look like for you? But also, what does that look like for our team and for our leaders? I do that to myself as well. That's part of my reflection, because your impact's got to be visible. And as leaders, we can't just assume. So my unintended fails every single time as a tūmaraki or as a colleague has been about assumption, and it's been about presumption. I've assumed people know what I'm talking about. I've assumed they've understood our systems and processes in our school. I presume that they can do something. We've got to come back to that clarity of communication. We've got to come back to what evidence we're gathering, and it can't just be that one off that second time. It's December, I've got to gather stuff. What does that look like? What are your checkpoints that you have planned throughout the year? What does that look like? And there's some schools doing an amazing stuff within that. So talking about that evaluation impact, because you want to be able to have the evidence to continue on the path that you're on. And don't underestimate what you're doing. Don't underestimate your narrative. Sustaining innovation is not easy, especially when you've got other things coming and people get excited, right? So I'm a huge systems person, and it can't be dependent on one or two people. And many of us have probably made that mistake in the past, right? So we'll put that people, she's an amazing teacher, she's an amazing DP or leader, let's give her this portfolio and she'll run it and just go. And then they leave, and then you're standing there going, oh, what do I do? So it is around that collective good, and what does that look like? What do those systems mean? And the best check of a system is to ask someone new to your school, and then ask someone who's been in your school a long time and see what that kōrero looks like. Does it align? Because quite often it's that assumption, presumption stuff, right? So your systems, reviewing those all the time based on what's happened in your school, what's happening in our sector, but always about with our tamariki at the forefront. Thinking about your leadership succession. So when we're talking about that, part of that is, what is that talent management? What is it I don't have? What is it I might need? And I know it's really hard. I hear all the time, we can't get teachers in Tamaki, Makoto, we've got to do the program thing, I've got to get this. But actually, when we step back, and again, we come back to our priority, our strategic purpose, and our who, we should also be looking at in terms of our talent management for our leadership team. When that one person who has all the skills leaves, where does that leave you? So if you've got that kind of situation when you think, I'm rather dependent on one person, you've got to ask yourself how sustainable that's going to look. So start thinking about that leadership succession. And that goes back to that kōrero I was just saying, like when I'm looking at my new teachers and my new leaders, I'm also thinking about the potential I see in them as leaders and where I think they're going to go. And by having that conversation, I'm not only saying to them that I value them, that I see them with us for a long time, or even in another kura, because I'll still be there, I'll still be your champion. What I'm trying to think of is, what are the skills that they bring in? And I'm not talking about go be an expert in maths or English or go play heaps of sport. I'm talking about their leadership skills, communication, the way they work with others, the way they listen to others. And also in the world that we are in today, let's be honest, how are their digital competencies? The printing press was one of the greatest inventions in the world. And the only thing that's really come close to that is what's happened now when we've got the Wi-Fi and the internet. So that's how I've said the Wi-Fi. But also thinking about where we go in AI. And already we know as New Zealanders, we're well behind. So how are we bringing that technology in, and how are we building those tools and those capabilities into our leaders so they can realise their potential, they can meet their potential, and so that we have a talent management plan and succession going forward for what we want to be doing with our kura. And that goes for yourself as well, principals. If we stepped out tomorrow, we know we've got people who can run our kura, but if we stepped out for a long time or went to another job, what is it we are leaving? We have a responsibility to make sure that we've put those in place. And that comes around the innovation and the thinking around your people. And again, always coming back. Is it making a difference? Well, how do you know? Because all of us are good at talking and all of us are good at sharing stuff, but how do we actually know? And it comes back to that evaluation impact I just talked about. Also, outside of the leadership team, how do people know? We get stuck into our meetings and we get stuck into this kōrero. How do we share that out? More than an email, and it's something I'm always thinking about. I don't want to overwhelm my teachers, especially my PRTs, and our support staff. How do I know my relief teachers are involved? And then how do I get that out to the community? So your communication and how you're growing and sharing that collectively, you do need to think about what that looks like. Whether it's a chat, your newsletters, using your SMS system. We know that PLD works, but also just that check-in. Your relievers in the staff room, go have a cup of tea, 5 minutes, team. Hey, what do you think we mean? We're trying to focus on effective questioning in the classroom. I know teachers learning plan. What do you think that might look like? What would your ideas be around that? And then those people bringing them into the conversation. Where does that go and what does that do? And most of all, being and lean into the stuff they look at, which is about that sharing stories. That formally, presentations, all that kind of stuff, whatever they do in their team meetings, sharing at PLD. but actually just sharing those really cool stories, acknowledging people. You know, Roger Moses, tūmariki I'm a bit of a fan on, he's like post-it notes and put it all in his staff's, you know, and there's trays and stuff. Whether you do stuff like that, whether you send an email and share everybody in on how awesome that was, put it on your social media, put it in your school newsletters, but sharing stories about the cool stuff that our leaders are doing. But also, team, also acknowledging what they're doing. Okay, what do they do when we're not in the chair, when we're not there? What is the stuff they've picked up on? What do they do, or who else steps up when you're not there in the chair leading stuff? So thinking about that, what they do on the all day, every day, as well as celebrating the really cool things that people come up with, right? So we do a lot of that. I like to share that and acknowledge what people do, have a cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever it takes to champion those people and the mucky that they're doing. And the other part I wanted to talk around with our sustaining innovation is, you know, it can't be owned by one person. And again, the team talked about that just before. It has to be around the whanaungatanga. It has to be around everyone. So when our systems, when people go, do we have those systems in place? Is it an everyday thing that you do, or is it a surprise? You know, so looking at those, how we intentionally grow that leadership across our kura. How for us, it's about realizing potential. Where are you taking a risk and where you're investing? And if you're doing an action plan or you're doing a strat plan around it, where is that risk analysis in it to help those people get over there? What are you going to do when it feels too much for them? What are you going to do as a leader when you're developing your other leaders and they might feel overwhelmed, but you know that they're going to get there? And that can only happen by knowing our people, right, and where they want to go. So for us, it'll be, you know, the types of one-to-one that we have, the things that we do when we're having a chat, but also that formal stuff where we're doing whisper of inquiry school. So if we're doing a co-plan, co-teach, or we're in there having a kōrero around the teaching and the evaluation of a narrative reflection, win, learn, change, what does that look like? How are we capturing it formally, informally, but looking at the successes within that. And as always, what's the next step? What do we need to do next? Again, how does it meet our priorities and how we're contributing to that? So we will thrive. People thrive when they do that. And it's really important because we're rubbish at celebrating, New Zealanders. We get all like whakamara and shy and stuff, but celebrate your people. Celebrate where they're going to go and not just at the end in those moments that they do. So thinking about that innovation and the things that you're going to do, build into your systems. Don't be dependent on one or two personalities. Develop that leadership succession, talent plan management, whatever you want to call it, because innovation has to survive turnover, has to survive people learning, also has to survive changes, right? We know all about changes. Revisit it regularly. Does it make a difference? How do we know? And more importantly, sharing those stories, fails as well as the successes. So your call as a leader is what does that look like in your context and how do you know it's going to last? So making sure that innovation in your context does last. Otherwise, again, it's just change. It's just busyness. It's just an activity. When you think about what your next fail might be, your first attempt in learning, if you haven't got a fail a week, you know, you're probably a little bit too comfortable. So put that challenge in and then think about that in terms of what does that look like as an intentional fail? What is the strategic fails I need to have in order to get where I want us to go? So for us, I know we've got curriculum just like you fellas everywhere. But for us, it's going to keep coming back to critical thinking and effective questioning. And while we're focusing on our tamariki and our strat plan, that is also what I want with our kaiako. I need them to be in a safe space. I need to have the school culture where they can do that with each other, because how else can they then do that as teachers, right? How then can they do that with their tamariki? And then how do we share that safely with our whanaungatanga and with our whānau? So making sure that our who are our tamariki at all times at the heart of what they do. Because quite frankly, with AI and everything else, knowledge content's at the tip of the fingers. It'll be like this. It has to be our capabilities and skills. And how do we know that that learning is going to outlive the next initiative, program, everything else that's coming in, right? Those initiatives that you're going to prioritise in your kura and where you guys want to go and what you want to achieve, just like us, It's really taking that time to be purposeful for it. You don't have to rush to a deadline. But once you've made that call, and most people, it's, January to December, it's not rocket science. The hard part as a leader is keeping to that priority. Do you lock down your calendar by a certain week each term? I've had to, because my teachers just want to do everything. They want to sign up for every trip and everything that comes in. Oh, we'll do this now. We'll do a dance and we'll have matariki concerts and we'll do a production just like all of you. And I have to be tough and make a call because I know this busy, fun stuff becomes more important than what we're trying to achieve, which are those 2 capability goals. So now we lock down our calendar. Everyone's got to week 8 of the term before to make sure it's gone in there. Again, how are we using AI? Are we ethical? Are we checking it? Are we creating the time that I want my teachers to have within their planning and all the admin tasks that we've set them up to do? Because we use a lot of AI in our school so that they've got the time to hone in on their teaching skills. And then how do we make sure that that happens? How do I know I'm supporting that? Your coaches, your mentors, your tutors, those are your key leaders in the school. Your leadership team, that are the people making sure that your systems and processes are in place. And you've got to make sure, as the tūmaraki or governor or whoever sits in your swivel chair, that those links, that sustainability, that cycle is being reinforced over and over again, but always at the heart of it is our tamariki and your priorities. So I want you to reflect on what that innovation might look like in your own context. It can't be the newest thing, okay? The newest thing is like me going on a diet or trying to buy the flashiest jacket at H&M, okay? It won't last. It's done by Monday. So you've got to think about what is purposeful. And let's face it, it starts with your school values and who you are as a kura and what you want for your tamariki. And what you want for your tamariki can only happen with your kaiako. That can only happen with your leaders. So in terms of that, there's nothing more important. If you can't get that kurawa, if you can't get that wrap around them right, then you're just chasing all the time the busy stuff and then wondering why the real things that you want to embed and change aren't going to happen. And that's teaching, right? That's education. And that's where the magic is. That's why I love it. So I keep coming back to what we're trying to achieve and what we want to do. Consider what that learning, what that ako looks like, and what that collective. And again, at those levels, our tamariki, our kaiako, our whānau, and our leaders, because we're the wraparound for it. So learning is a collective. It's not about one person. What about this? Go on. And most of all, just be brave. Be brave. There's nothing tougher, but there's nothing better. And it's why we're all in this job, because that's how awesome it is. We get to make change. We actually do. Don't get, bogged down by all the stuff being chucked in, the noise. We are still self-governing schools. And at the heart of it is our kids, our people. Then we decide what the how is. Forget the what. The what is already there. It's coming at us. So my challenge to you, be brave, be purposeful, but be honest about it. And just as I started this kōrero, I'm going to finish it. He hara taku toa te toa takatahi, engari he toa takatini. Because it is about the collective. If you can't understand that, you're going to be up a rock up a hard hill. Talking too much now. So, think about your people. How do they bring them in? Even if you're a small kura, 1 or 2 people school, thinking about what that looks like. How do you bring your board of governors in? What have you got your mates, your principals associations down the road to work with you? Education's not difficult. Teaching and running our kura is not really that difficult. We make it difficult by being fussed about the what. Keep coming back to why we do this with our who at the centre. How we're going to grow those people. We do it all the time with our tamariki. We need to do it with our leaders. We need to do it with our kaiako, and not just in the moment that we're in and what you want to achieve from 1 January to the December, but what you want to do in a 2 to 3 cycle. It isn't going to happen overnight, but when it does, just like when your tamariki had that light bulb moment, that is the magic. And as a leader, quite frankly, that is the most exciting. That is the legacy. I know Mohamed said, don't talk about legacy. That is the legacy of a leader. How have you grown the other people in the profession to keep the profession where it needs to be? Because this is the best job in the world. We get to be a part of our people's lives, but not just our tamariki, our kaiako too. So ngā mihi kia koutou, went off track, nothing new there. I appreciate the kōrero, but I do say to you, and I applaud you, be brave, be purposeful, be truthful, but think about your people and how we grow them, because that's the magic, right? So kia ora team, that's me.
Kia ora, Lysandra. I just want to thank you for your inspiring and thought-provoking presentation. You are clearly so passionate that I feel like I could just listen to you talk all day. Ngā mihi nui for sharing your expertise and passion for optimistic, courageous leadership. Your contribution today was a powerful way to conclude this series and will leave a lasting impact on our work with kaiako, tumuaki and leaders across Aotearoa. We will now close with karakia. Kua e ke runga, kua e ke raro. I rongo whakairihia ki runga, kia tina, tina. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.